the premature burial. For several years, I had been subject to attacks of the singular disorder which physicians have agreed to term catalepsy. Sometimes the patient is saved from premature interment solely by the knowledge of his friends that he has been previously subject to catalepsy, by the consequent suspicion excited, and above all, by the non-appearance of decay. Sometimes, without any apparent cause, I sank, little by little, into a condition of half-swoon. And in this condition, without pain, without ability to steer, or strictly speaking, to think, but with a dull, lethargic consciousness of life and of the presence of those who surrounded my bed. I remained until the crisis of the disease restored me, suddenly in my bed, to perfect sensation. In all that I endured, there was no physical suffering, but of moral distress and inquietude. My fancy grew charnel. I talked of wounds, of tombs, and epitaphs. I was lost in reveries of death, and the idea of premature burial held continual possession of my brain. The ghastly danger to which I was subjected haunted me day and night. It was with a struggle that I consented to sleep, for I shuddered to reflect that upon awakening I might find myself the tenant of a grave. And when finally I sank into slumber, it was only to rush at once into a world of phantasms, above which, with vast, sable, overshadowing wing, hovered, predominant, the one sepulchral idea. Fantasies such as this, presenting themselves at night, extended their terrific influence far into my waking hours. My nerves became thoroughly unstrung, and I fell a prey to perpetual horror. I hesitated to ride, or to walk, or to indulge in any exercise that would carry me from home. In fact, I no longer dare trust myself out of the immediate presence of those who were aware of my proneness to catalepsy, lest, falling into one of my usual fits, I should be buried before my real condition could be ascertained. I entered into a series of elaborate precautions. Among other things, I had the family vault so remodeled as to admit of being readily opened from within. The slightest pressure upon a long lever that extended far into the tomb would cause the iron portal to fly back. There were arrangements also for the free admission of air and light, and convenient receptacles for food and water within immediate reach of the coffin intended for my reception. The coffin was warm and softly padded, and was provided with a lid fashioned upon the principle of the vault door, with the addition of springs so contrived that the feeblest movement of the body would be sufficient to set it at liberty. Besides all this, there was suspended from the roof of the tomb a large bell, the rope of which it was designed should extend through a hole in the coffin, and so be fastened to one of the hands of the corpse. But alas, what avails the vigilance against the destiny of man? Not even these well-contrived securities suffice to save from the uttermost agonies of living inhumation, a wretch to these agonies foredoomed. Then arrived an epoch, as often before there had arrived, in which I found myself emerging from total unconsciousness into the first feeble and indefinite sense of existence. Slowly, with a tortuous gradation, approached the faint gray dawn of the physical day, a torpid uneasiness, an apathic endurance of dull pain, no care, no hope, no effort. Then, after a long interval, a ringing in the ears. Then, after a lapse still longer, a prickling or tingling sensation in the extremities. Then, a seemingly eternal period of pleasurable quiescence, during which the awakened feelings are struggling into thought. Then, a brief re-sinking into non-entity. Then, a sudden recovery. At length, the slight quivering of an eyelid, and immediately thereupon an electric shock of horror, deadly and indefinite, which sends the blood in torrents from the temples to the heart. And now, the first positive effort to think. And now, the first endeavor to remember. And now, a partial and evanescent success. And now, The memory has so far regained its dominion that in some measure I am cognizant of my state. I feel that I am not awakened from ordinary sleep. I recollect that I have been subject to catalepsy. And now, at last, as if by the rush of an ocean, my shuddering spirit is overwhelmed by the one grim danger, by the one spectral and ever-prevalent idea. For some minutes after this fancy possessed me, I remained without motion. And why? I could not summon courage to move. I dared not make the effort which was to satisfy me of my fate, and yet there was something at my heart which whispered to me it was true. Despair, such as no other species of wretchedness ever calls into being. Despair alone urged me, and long irresolution to uplift the heavy lids of my eyes. I uplifted them. It was dark, all dark. I knew that the fit was over. I knew that the crisis of my disorder had long passed. I knew that I had now fully recovered the use of my visual faculties, and yet it was dark, all dark, the intense and utter raylessness of the night that endureth forevermore. I endeavored to shriek, and my lips and my parched tongues moved convulsively together in the attempt, but no voice issued from the cavernous lungs, which, oppressed as if by the weight of some incumbent mountain, gasps and palpitated with the heart at every elaborate and struggling inspiration. The movement of the jaws in this effort to cry aloud showed me that they were bound up. As is usual with the dead, I felt too that I lay upon some hard substance, and by something familiar my sides also closely compressed.